Hi, this is Emma Pallant-Browne, and you are listening to the MX Endurance Podcast.
Welcome back to the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by my good friend, the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice in triathlon, James Bale. Jimbo, welcome back to the podcast, friend.
How are you, mate? Yeah, things are good here. How are you, bud?
Good. Actually, very, very good. I think I reported a few weeks ago that I was in the search for a coach, and I can happily confirm that I have found a new coach, which I'm very excited about. I went out for a brutal brick. We might leave it another week. Maybe we'll build a bit of sizzle. They know who they are. I know they listen too. Um, Went out to the regatta centre, did a brick session. It was getting hot in Sydney. I know you love the weather chat, James Bale. 35 degrees. I melted. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I had to stop about 27 times on my 5K run because I was dying in the heat. I'm like, what is this? James Bale has had too much of an influence on me. But Jimbo, nobody cares about my training. They don't actually give a shit what I've been doing on the bike. What they care about is that this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. Jimbo, you've been part of MX for bloody ages. What's something you love about it?
You're being very loud today, mate. Your enthusiasm is pumping at me. What do I like about it? Well, I like the range of opportunities within the group. Because as we discussed recently, we recently launched the applications for this year's race team.
Winding up, actually.
Yeah, you don't have to be part of the race team. You can just be a member. You don't have to just be a member. We've also got coaching opportunities with a range of coaches within the group. And as you know, I've just taken on 2 new athletes as coachees. And I'm looking forward to working with them both over the next period.
I want to hear about the James Bell method of triathlon. Let's get a little bit coachy. We try to avoid the coach talk too much on this podcast because there's literally 10,000 podcasts about coaching in triathlon. But what's the James Bell method, mate? Why should somebody pick James Bell as their coach?
I'm a master of the excuses, mate. You've got to have your excuses in line. You've got to have them ready, and a range of different excuses, so that when you always seem genuine and natural when you put them in place. No, I think that for me, the fundamental underpinning of training for triathlon is everybody talks about motivation, and I don't think motivation matters. I don't think it's important. I think motivation is good when you've got it and it's useful, to be going at something like you're in a Rocky training montage. But the most important thing to understand about exercise and training and fitness is it's a contract with life. And that contract with life means that if you do your training, you do your session, you'll feel better after it than you do before it. And you'll be healthier, you'll have a better state of mind and a better sense of well-being throughout your life. So those moments where you wake up or you go to do a session and you can't be fucked, you got to be able to draw back on that contract with life and say, I don't need to be motivated. I just need to do the work.
Is it too late for me to change my mind and come and sign with you? Because you've convinced me, mate. You've put the sweet words into my mouth, and I've gone, that's exactly what I want to hear. I reckon you're going to get a lot of inquiries, mate.
I don't think you can afford me. Can you? Can you?
Oh, mate,
Do you
I
get
don't
paid
know.
enough?
Probably not. I mean, if the podcasting's clearly not working out for us too. Did I mention that you can sign up for a podcast membership at mxendurance.com/podcast? In all seriousness, it's the final week to getting your applications for the MX Endurance race team. Again, there's a whole range of ways you can get involved with the community. We love to see. We've had a lot of applications. As of next week, I have to start going through them, which I love, but it is also like it's this huge annual task. Maybe I'll see if I can get Jimbo to help me a little bit. But yeah, you've got a few days. We're going to unveil the new kit this weekend. I'm really excited for people to see. I reckon once people see the new kit, we're going to get a few more applications, Jimbo, because it is fire. Speaking of fire, James Bale, we have to talk about something, and that something is what is going on at the Norwegian Triathlon Federation.
There's rumblings.
Now, how this first came to my attention was on a recent Talbot Cox video on Lionel Sanders' YouTube channel where he had Gustav at the beginning of it. And again, check it out. It's fantastic. I think Gustav says, hello. It is Gustav, the enemy of your hero. Made me laugh a lot. I think Gustav's a very, very funny guy. But on the video, Gustav referred to his brother, Mikkel, who we all know is Lionel Sanders' coach. I think we broke that exclusively here. he referred to Mikkel as his coach. And I thought, that's weird, because I know that Gustav is part of the Norwegian Triathlon Federation, which means he falls under the head coach, Frodeno, who he had on the podcast a few weeks ago with Christian just after the Olympics. Me and Macca sat down with him. And I thought that's weird to me. And I don't know whether that's maybe he's just doing his middle distance coaching, and Arnold tends to focus more on the Olympic and short course racing. I'm not sure how it goes. But since then, we've heard from some fairly reliable sources. And I want to start by saying this has not come from people at Triathlon Federation Norway. We haven't heard an official word yet. This is more from some people that, and again, there's more than one person who's told us this, that we consider fairly reliable sources, that the Norwegian Triathlon Federation has gone broke, to be honest. And it looks like Arild Tvedt is no longer the head coach of the Norwegian team. We're not exactly sure what this means, but it looks like, and again, I saw a few weeks ago, maybe months ago, that they were advertising on LinkedIn asking for sponsors. So it looks like they're trying to get some private investment to, I hope, get the team up and running again, because I think we can all agree that they've been very successful at what they do, and it clearly works. And for me, James, I don't know about you, but the thing I find so shocking is we've learned this rhythm with Olympic sports, that Olympic success is how they determine funding. Christian Blumenfeld won the gold medal, and now they've run out of funding. That's what I'm like, what's going, that's the thing that I go, something's not quite right there. Again, I don't know any more than what we've basically just said, but it's concerning, mate.
Yeah, man. I mean, every single national federation you can think of determines its funding levels based on success at the Olympics. Really, I mean, it's all about that. Certainly, from a Team GB perspective, it's medals are medals. You know, medals are what earn your federation in whatever sport you are in the funding for the next period, and it's incredibly surprising that with the amount of success that the Norwegian Federation has been seeing, not only at the Olympics but across
WTCS 70.3,
WTCS 70.3, you know, it's been a sort of tidal wave of success for them that's been building and building and building, and now for that funding to presumably been cut, or was there any funding in the first place? You know, was it all sponsor money?
It's a good point.
And maybe some sponsors just got bored and gone, nah, I'm done with this now. Maybe the federation can't see the talent coming up behind, and has said, well, we've got what we've got, and we're not finding anyone to follow in the footsteps. Who knows?
I find it interesting because, again, you'll hear later in the episode, we have Emma Pallant-Browne on the show this week, and I talk to her a lot about what the hell is going on with the British triathlon at the moment, especially the women. Like, the women are just, I hate how good you bastards are. Like, fuck off. But you have to think that part of that is because of the legacy of the Brownlees. Not just the Brownlees. I shouldn't say just Vicky Holland as well. I mean, there's so many incredible female triathletes and male triathletes from the UK, but that success, it breeds success. And I think the reason we see so many people in the UK who are so good at triathlon is because of that long-term investment and the success that's resulted as a result of that. I would have assumed that right now, so many people in Norway would be wanting to take up triathlon. Like, you'd assume, again, all I can compare this to is in 2006, Australia qualified for the Football World Cup, and we made it to the second round. It was this big deal. Italy robbed us with a bullshit penalty. Come at me, and we got eliminated. But my football club and football clubs all around Australia suddenly went boom. There was this huge uptake of the sport that, you know, Australia has a lot of other sports we take. I would assume that a similar thing would be happening in Norway with triathlon. So to hear that the federation is, I mean, I just don't know. No, I mean, things like we said, Arnold's gone. It looks like Kasper and Gustav are now being coached by Mikkel, and Christian is being coached by Olav. I can't remember his last name. I've got it written down here. Olav, bear with me. Olav's Alexander Boo, who is their sports scientist, the very scientific guy. He's also in Christian's latest YouTube video up in Sierra Nevada. So this is a big deal, mate. Like, this is huge. And again, shocking. Like, literally, the people that we've spoken to about it, everyone has just been like, "What the hell is going on?" And we've touched on it a fair bit. There's something going on with a whole bunch of federations at the moment. Some of it's financial, some of it's problems with coaches and bullying, and like, there's just, we talk about the way conversations go. There's something happening with national federations in triathlon at the moment, and I don't know what the hell is going on.
No, I mean, obviously across the last 2 years, we've seen a fiscal impact of the pandemic, haven't we, in many sectors, and a lot of businesses, and a lot of me and you know well how how the partnership endorsement, the sponsorship landscape has shifted in the last however many months. In terms of it's more difficult now on an individual level to get sponsorship for athletes, let alone probably on a sort of federation level. So we're gonna see the ripple effects of the last 18 months for the next couple of years, I think. So we'll have to just ride it out and see how things go. But I don't see any good coming from a government deciding not to fund its triathlon federation. Other than, I mean, that you're just going to have a generation of athletes that is a gap.
Also, when you consider Norway as one of the wealthiest countries in the world with this state oil fund, I don't know how much you know about. No, I know this because I live there. They have this oil fund because they've obviously got this oil in Norway, so they put this national fund, and that's what they use for, it's like safekeeping for the future. But I can't remember that it's some insane amount of money that Norway has. I think they've worked out that if every citizen of Norway got their share, it'd be like over $1 million. Basically, it's crazy how wealthy that country is. So to hear that one of the only summer sports that they won a gold medal at suddenly out of funding, I'm like, it just.
I'm not surprised they've got loads of money, mate. The amount of money they spend, they charged me for a beer when I was over there.
Yeah, mate, tried living there for 2 years. 75 Australian dollars for a home delivered pizza. I remember that and being like, why? That's why I lost weight, to be honest. Food was just so expensive in Norway that I decided to starve myself. No, not really. But look, yeah, we felt like we had a responsibility to talk about this because it is serious, and hopefully, again, I've spoken to some other athletes who've said that this actually happens sometimes, and what they'll probably do is just restructure and come back in a different way. I hope so. I think the athletes are in very capable hands. As I said, Mikkel is an incredible coach. Olav also, obviously, very, very knowledgeable guy. So I'm not super worried about the athletes. It's just a shock, I think, because it's broken that rule of Olympic success leads to funding. This doesn't seem to be the case this time. So we'll keep you updated when we hear more. We
will pay all the attention. Should we pay all the attention to that?
I think we should. James Bale, do you know what happened to me last weekend? I
know what happened to you, dude. It happened to me as well, but it happened to you in a more, aggressive way.
I remember I was excited like I used to be as a child the night before Christmas. I was so excited to go to bed because it meant I would wake up and Santa Claus would have the presents under the Christmas tree for me. I knew there'd be that shiny Nintendo 64 waiting for me. I'd race down and I'd unwrap my present, and it was the best thing ever. And the best thing ever for me on the weekend was Ironman California between Jan Frodeno and Gustav Iden. And I went to bed. Literally, I dreamt about the race. Like, that's how excited. I'm not even joking. I literally dreamt about the race, and I woke up to the news that in fact the race had been cancelled. James Bale, we got this article from Triathlon Magazine Canada, Kevin McKinnon. It says Ironman California cancelled due to deteriorating weather conditions. The much anticipated showdown between Lionel Sanders, Jan Frodeno, and Gustav Iden. I see that he put Lionel first. Wouldn't be Canadian if he didn't. We'll have to wait a bit. Severe rainstorms in Sacramento, California, initially caused Ironman to shorten the bike to just 90 kilometers. But that morning, things just got worse, facing Ironman to cancel the event. I believe the shortened course was only for amateurs, not for the professionals. They said, we regret to inform you that the 2021 Ironman California Triathlon cannot take place today. Ironman posted a message to the Ironman California Facebook page. Weather conditions have deteriorated overnight, and weather conditions are expected to worsen over the course of the day. We no longer believe that we can provide an acceptably safe swim and bike environment for our athletes. We recognize that the change at this late juncture will come as a disappointment, and we are working diligently to provide you with further details and racing options. Now, I saw Jan Frodeno's reaction to this, James Bale, where he literally was just like, fuck. Made me love him even more, if I'm honest. But, mate, tell me about yours, because you didn't wake up to this news. You lived it.
No, I didn't. I lived it. It was at some point in the afternoon on the day of the event. And I just, tucked myself away upstairs to do a bit of a strength session with some weights. And I was just setting everything out and getting ready. And then had the the Facebook now Ironman Now thing saying it's, counting down, waiting for it to start. And then it was about 15 minutes, man, before the start, the announcement came out. And as you can see that from Frodo's video, it wasn't just his reaction of fuck. He was there in his bloody thing, wandering around in the rain, ready to start the race, as they all were. as all the age groupers were, and then it comes across the tannoy that they've cancelled the race. I mean, I am with them in terms of cancelling for safety, and I don't really understand all the messages that are flooding in saying, well, this is just like a rainy day in the UK. I mean, it was a fucking storm.
Have you seen the videos?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I know you guys are tough over there apparently, but fuck me, if you want to do a race, good luck.
There were bits of trees flying everywhere, and it was not conditions you want to race in. It's not optimum for that. And I think as a race organizer, you've got to take two people's safety as the first thing you think about. So I get it. But imagine how gutted you'd be if you were wandering around having set your bike up just 15 minutes before the start and then you hear it's cancelled. I mean, that's a fucker, that is.
I did something that I don't normally do this week, Jimbo. I notoriously do not listen to triathlon podcasts, but friend of the show, Joe Skipper, started a podcast called Triathlon Mockery that I would encourage you all to go and check out because it's actually fantastic. And they were talking about this, and they were telling about some of the pro athletes, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but they basically said that this athlete had put all their money, everything they had, into this race, and the cancellation means that they might potentially not be able to race professional anymore because they can't afford to race anymore because they've literally gone broke as a result of this event. 100% not Ironman's fault. This is not me I'm not trying to throw shade or anything. I just want to.
That's an individual fuck up. That is. Do you know what I mean?
I feel bad for the athlete, mate. I'm sorry.
I agree with you. I feel bad for them, but I don't know. Like, these things can happen. You can have race cancellations on the morning of a race. You can have race postponements. You can have race cut down to bike and run. So if you're in a position where it's in the entirety of your life's existence going into being able to do this race, or you're not a pro anymore, then there is that measure of risk that a race might be cancelled.
I love that you got spicy. I didn't see this coming.
One anecdotal story about it just doesn't. It's like, okay, I feel bad for you as an individual, but on a more global scale, the safety and of the participants is much more important.
Yeah, that's not me saying that they should have put. I don't think I think they've 100% made the right call. I think it's more just to emphasize just how, like, there are real consequences of this. And again, I 100% think Ironman have done very, very positive things, which we'll get to try to mitigate this. But just it was again, if you haven't checked it out or you think it was just a rainy day, look up some of the footage. Kelly O'Mara from triathlete.com has been on Twitter putting up a whole bunch of posts from the Sacramento area showing just how fucked this storm was. And
there was, I think Talbot Cox was getting quite a bit of shit online from people messaging him saying, it's just like a rainy day in the UK and, all this, that and the other. And he put a tweet out that said, well, if it's just a rainy day in the UK, if a rainy day in the UK is just like this, why would anybody live there? And someone's response to that was free healthcare. And that made me chuckle.
That's very good. That's very good. But again, I am concerned that this is an opportunity we might never get again. I don't know. That sounds very, very dramatic, but I have wanted to see these two race each other, plus Lionel, for like 12 months at least. Like, basically since Gustav did what he did at Daytona, especially. What was that? What was that giggle for?
Just the way you plus Lionel at the end. It was almost like an afterthought. Anyway.
I'm not going to deny the fact that what I was excited about was Jan and Gustav head to head.
Yeah, totally.
And
totally.
I hope that we still get to see this, whether it's an Ironman or so. I think I would hope, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but I think they've both seen the excitement or the interest in this race. And I think that they're both probably going to try to find it. I hope, again, we'll find out. But yeah, I worry that we've missed the opportunity as a result of this. And it's just, again, like, this has been such a shit 18 months, 2 years at this point. And this is just another example of it, just finding another way to fucking get one in at us, like.
Yeah, it had. And it felt like that on the day, mate, when it was cancelled. I was just like, fuck off weather, because it seems that, at the moment we've lived through this period of a lot of race cancellations and a lot of races deferred and moved. And then also on top of that, it feels like every time we almost do get a race, the weather kicks in and fucks it up. And it's happened more times than I can think of. And it's just like, come on, world. Come on, let's get some triathlon racing done.
I'll be honest. When I was thinking about putting this in the show this week, I just knew this was going to get a really strong, visceral reaction from you, because it is two of your favorite things combined into one article: weather talk, triathlon. So I'm glad you got this. It's definitely perked you up. You got spicy. I love it when James Bell gets a bit spicy. Didn't expect it. It's been good time.
Yeah.
But look, let's continue on. I spoke about the positive steps that Ironman have taken to try to mitigate the cancellation of this race. And we go to John Levinson at Try 24/7, who says Gustav Iden is now set for his full distance debut at Ironman Florida, which is on Sunday, November 6th, which is a week, just over a week away from when this episode comes out. Originally, there was no planned pro male race in Florida, but Ironman moved swiftly to change that, given races registered for Sacramento the chance to line up in just under 2 weeks' time. Eden is already on site in Panama City Beach and ready to continue his preparation there. One positive regarding the change of schedule for the 2-time 70.3 world champion is that it gives him some more time to fully recover from the cold he'd been battling and lead up to Sunday in Sacramento. Now they say, Frodeno versus Eden, is it still possible? As yet, there is no confirmation as to whether Frodeno might consider heading to Florida to rekindle that much hyped meeting with Eden. To complicate matters for him, he has other business to attend back in Europe this weekend, namely the Scrail 100 race he's staging in his Girona base, which takes place on Sunday, October 31.
So did you get to the bottom of whether it's Scrail or Segrail or...
He tweeted, didn't he?
Yeah. I can't remember what he said.
Kat Matthews said it was Scrail, and Frodo said you would be correct. So I believe it's Scrail. That's why I went with it. God, I hope I'm right.
I saw on his video, his response video, the one you referenced earlier, he said it's a fucking long way to fly for a cancellation. And now, if he was going to do Florida, that's flying back to Europe for Segrail and then flying back to Florida for Florida. So that's even more.
The only positive is because Florida is on the East Coast of America, not the West Coast. It's like half the flight time, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to Miami this year for the challenge race. So I think it's less of a burden. But what do you think? Are we going to see him there?
Yeah, we are. Come on, man. Yeah, we are. Why wouldn't you? Just flex it up. Double flex.
Double
Come
flex. On. Just rock up and be like,
let's
yeah,
go.
What? You thought I wouldn't show up? He did do that
Don't
funny.
tell anybody. Just fucking turn up.
Did you see the video he did where he was running in his wetsuit? That made me chuckle.
Yeah, I did. All these Instagram videos that people put out, mate.
You love it. I understand you're the king of content, and you did actually put up some fire content this week, which genuinely impressed me. The other thing we have to talk about, though, is the other elephant in the room, and that is the one that I mentioned before, was Lionel Sanders is racing Ironman Florida. He looks set to lock horns with Gustav Iden because he has unfinished business at Panama City Beach. Speaking on his Discord channel, he said that he had a couple of very special reasons to head there. Firstly, I played host to the Sanders family when he made his pro Ironman debut some 7 years ago. He said, Ironman Florida 2014 was my pro Ironman debut and my mum's first Ironman. Swim got cancelled, so it was an iron bike run. We have unfinished business. The Florida memories don't stop there either. He added, Aaron and I got engaged there before that race, and it took a lot of history for them. So there we go. Lionel, at least we're going to see Lionel versus Gustav.
Lionel stepped up, and I'm pleased to see that because I think it's good to see. It's not that big a time difference between the race cancellation and the rearrangement in Florida. It's good to see Ironman putting on the race in Florida in order to mitigate the cancellation. Yeah. Florida will have better weather because it's Florida and it always has better weather. You just got to avoid the alligators. Is
that all you need to avoid in Florida?
Yeah, plenty of other things. I'm like, come on, Frodo, if you don't do this, then if you want, mate, if you're listening, if you want, I'll go and represent you at the Scrail. You can just send me out there as your representative. So you can just stay in one time zone.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jan Frodeno and outwaddled
representative
James Bale. In his tri-suit that doesn't fit properly. Oh. If somebody can, I'll probably do it myself. Photoshop James Bell's head on Jan Frodeno's body. That is fantastic. But you've got to go race it now. You know what you've done. You have to get a late minute entry, and you need to get over to Girona for this event, and you need to borrow one of his tri-suits. Oh, that's tickled me pink. What hasn't tickled me pink is the next article, which I got from Sarah Wasner-Flynn at triathlete.com in part of her weekly wrap-up. And that is that Russian pro Polyansky has been hit with a 3-year ban for the doping disqualification at the Tokyo Games. Now, we've followed this article a fair bit since it happened, but it's only a quick one, and that is already suspended after tests revealed the presence of EPO in his urine and blood samples in late July. Russian triathlete Igor Polyansky has been formally banned from the sport for 3 years. On top of that, his results from the Tokyo Olympics, during which he placed 43rd and was part of the 14th placed mixed relay team, have been officially removed and considered annulled, and his ROC relay teammates were also disqualified because he admitted to doping and did not dispute his positive test. The 31-year-old Polyansky received a 1-year reduction from the potential 4-year sanction by World Triathlon. His case is the first formal disqualification of an Tokyo Olympics athlete for doping. Now, I wanted to talk about this because he got fucking 43rd despite doping. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, and the 3-year ban's been confirmed. I mean, we told him to fuck right off, and he has. So, done.
Isn't it interesting that ROC is in the games instead of Russia because of the doping problems, and even ROC has doping problems? It's like, yeah, I don't think your sanctions are working.
Who'd have thought it, eh? Oh, you know what we'll do? We'll give the Russian Federation a different name. That'll solve it. Excellent. Nice work. Yeah. I mean, we've discussed this, haven't we? We've gone through it.
Imagine doping for 43rd. Like, just get another sport, mate. Just fuck off.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an age group of doping. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You is still just the best image in my head. I love it. I love it so much.
Mate, if I was flown out to the Escrail to be a Jan Frodeno representative, then every drug under the sun would have to go into my body, wouldn't it? To see what I could achieve. It'd be the shittest little caveat, wouldn't it? Jan Frodeno will be here, representative.
Yeah, what the no. Oh, mate, you've tickled me. Thank you for that. This next thing, James, I don't know if you've heard this, but something got announced this week in triathlon that wasn't maybe so positively received. We got the article from Triathlon Magazine Canada, Kevin McKinnon. As always, with everything we read, guys, we encourage you to go to the websites, give them the clicks. It's how they make their revenue to keep doing their incredible journalism in the sport of triathlon. The article is called, Would You Pay $223 a year to be able to ask Lucy Charles-Barclay and Jan Frodeno a question? This week, Jan Frodeno and Lucy Charles-Barclay announced that they're working with a new app, Any Question. While there's a promo code of US $1 for the next week, from then on, you'll fork out $14.99 US a month for the privilege of asking the pair, along with the likes of Javier Gomez, Lucy Charles-Barclay, Flora Duffy, Gustav Iden, and Christian Blumenfeld, any question. Really? Is Gustav Iden on there?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, subscribe to the wisdom you want straight from the world-class experts. The app's description reads on Apple's App Store. Ask a question anytime, get exclusive video answers, and interact directly with the pros and other fans or followers. For the fans who want the real deal, straight from the source, the description continues. Jan Frodeno put up a post on his social media which says, always had a burning desire to ask me a question. Now you can ask me anything and get the answer. Use the link in my bio. And Lucy Charles-Barclay said, what would you ask me over coffee? I get hundreds of messages from you guys every day, and now there's finally a brand new platform where I can answer all of your most burning questions. Jimbo.
It hasn't gone down well, this, has it? With the it reminds me of the Life of Brian for some reason, when they're just throwing apples and stuff. They are professional athletes and they have a right to do whatever they want in order to earn money. And cool, fair play. I've got no problem with it. Go have at it. It's not for me. And I have a bit of an issue with finally there's a brand new platform where I can answer them. Well, I mean, there's loads of platforms already where you can answer questions. You say you get hundreds of messages every day. Answer the messages.
The thing that got me about it was because I think I messaged you about this maybe a week or two ago where I was like, something's coming. There's something going on. We're in a group chat with Sam from the PTO, and I was like, Sam, do you know what this thing is? He joked that it was Twitter. Apparently it's popular. And the thing that I find so funny is that the way of promoting this app is to ask any question on Instagram using the existing function in which people can ask questions which you answer, and then go, oh, there's just too many for me to answer. I get so many questions, like because you asked for them. Like you literally ask for if you don't want to do that. And look, I've seen the feedback being like, yeah, this is ridiculous. No, it's not ridiculous. If professional athletes have the right to do whatever they want to earn money. I've even seen people saying Jan Frodeno and Lucy Charles have enough money. Get fucked. Like you have professional athletes have such a finite window in which they can earn a proper income. Let them do it as much as they want. These guys work incredibly hard. That is not the thing. I just think it's a very, very funny concept. And again, I understand that a lot of people in triathlon know the guy behind this, Ed Baker. I personally had never heard of Ed Baker before. He looks like an incredibly successful triathlete, like very, very capable amateur, like fucking lightning fast. But man, watching him do his, hey, Jan, I've got something that can help. I was like, that is so cringe. And even if this is the greatest app in the world, I never want to use it just for that. It was like, ugh.
It's not for me. We say that from this position of doing this podcast and working in the industry. I mean, we don't need this app.
Join mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for as little $3.40 a month and get your questions answered on the podcast. Yeah, we should. How dare people charge for questions?
Or that. But I don't mean it. I mean in the sense that most triathletes. I mean, the beauty of our sport. Most triathletes are very accessible and very open to answering questions and being part of the community. That may change as the sport, becomes more and more and more professional. You don't have much access to Formula One drivers or, etc. But I think a lot of people have responded in a way that is like, well, all right, I'm not that desperate to ask you a question. I'm going to spend $233 a year. $233 a year is quite a lot. I mean, it's the kind of membership you pay to a platform that would give you more.
The Netflix of training sessions, training plans. We're half the price. We're half the price. We're half the price of that. No,
some of the
go
ahead. I was just going to say some of the responses we've seen from other professional athletes have amused me and tickled me somewhat. For example, Sky Monch put out an Instagram tweet that said, if you have any questions for me, feel free to just hit my DMs. I'll probably answer it free of charge. If you know, you know. I enjoyed that.
Next week, we have some guests coming on the show next week, and there was some comments about, we have to charge you $15 each to come on the podcast. I was like, hey, that's a bargain. I'll happily pay it. The other one that made me laugh was Gustav Iden on his Strava. He said, running after a day of travel is the worst type of running, but the worst type of running is still one of the best things in the world. Looking forward to spend the next couple of weeks here in Florida. And as always, it's free to ask questions here in the comment section. So, yeah, let's see.
Lots of implicit and explicit criticism. We'll see how this app goes because, people might be into it.
I can confirm that I spoke with a pro at some stage this week, and when we talked about this app, because I think they're on it, they mentioned that they got told it was similar to Credo, and my first thought was, what's Credo? And then I took a moment.
Yeah, I've never heard of Credo.
Oh, yes, you have, James Bell, because we discussed it on this podcast. It is the app that you get inspirational messages from professional athletes.
That one has that incredibly successful app that is still going. Is it still going?
Who would know? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I thought, okay,
I remember saying if I woke up in the morning and didn't want to train and some app told me to get out of bed, I'd tell it to get fucked.
Fuck off. That's the new and improved MX Endurance. We'll record. That's maybe what we'll do is one episode. We'll do a bonus episode. And it'll just be us saying a bunch of like, get the fuck up, get to the fucking pool, do the fucking session, shut the fuck up.
You don't need to be motivated. You don't need to be motivated. Get out of bed.
Exactly. But again, like I said, if it's for you, please don't think this is us saying it's. I don't have any issue with this sort of thing. I think it's fantastic. I find it quite funny a little bit, but if you're into it, fantastic. If this meets a need for you, incredible. I never want to say like, oh, how dare you? If like I said, awesome, but not for me, not for you, James Bell, by the sounds of it, but probably for some people. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And have at it. And I hope it's a success. And
Jimbo,
no worries.
I've been doing a lot of reading.
I bet you have.
I think we've been getting to.
I don't. He's such a cunt. I used a bad word. Then you're gonna have to edit that out.
I'm not editing. It's fine. I'll be fine. Tell us about a race that happened. I don't even know where the race. I'm not even going to try to say Portugal. I think this race happened in Portugal. We talked about it last week. Johnny Brownlee's debut at 70.3.
Ironman 70.3 Portugal happened this weekend. A large pro field combined with some seriously quick swimmers suggested that the pace would be on from the gun. This is on the men's side. There was certainly a big incentive to shake out the field and potentially lose some of the bikers inside the first 22 minutes through the opening 1.9 kilometer swim at Ribeira Beach. That storyline seemed to play out when a group of 9 athletes headed by Norway's Jorgen Gundersen gained some more than a minute's advantage on the chasers. The group included Christoph de Keyser, Brownlee, Aaron Royal, Anthony Costas, Clement Mignon, Thomas Davis, Casper Stornes, and Menno Koolhaas. The biking power of Ditlev was 122 back. The group would get shaken up over the first 30 kilometers of the bike. Ditlev bridged to the front with Mignon, Brownlee, Stornes, and Royal, now part of the leading quintet, as Gundersen and de Keyser dropped back from the pace of the leaders. That remained the case for the next 30 kilometers before the efforts of Ditlev to break clear finally worked. The Danish athlete, 8th at the recent Ironman 70.3 World Championship and eventually winner at Challenge Budvar, would push on to reach T2 alone. He had a 1 minute advantage over Ironman 70.3 Nice winner Stornes, with Brownlee just behind. Over the first 5k of the run, Ditlev saw his advantage cut by Stornes to within 30 seconds and Brownlee within a minute. Royal and Mignon a further 30 seconds back, all still to play for with 15 kilometers remaining. Some 10 kilometers later, entering the just a park run to go stage, the Dane was still holding strong at the front. Stornes was seemingly out of the race now, but Brownlee and a faster running Mignon were now second and third, 50 seconds back. They were closing slightly, but was the tide turning and experience starting to count? As they weren't making the expected gains on the Uber biker, the tide was indeed turning, and for Brownlee it was seemingly going out fast. While Ditlev used a 1:12:13 run split to stay strong for the win, both Mignon and Brownlee would fall back out of the podium positions altogether to 4th and 6th, respectively. So on the men's side, Magnus Ditlev won the race in 3:47:50, Aaron Royal in second in 3:48:34, and Menno Koolhaas in 3:48:34 rounded off the podium. I think I did all right there, didn't I?
Yes.
It was much better than last week.
Where was the race?
Ironman 70.3 Portugal.
Come on, let's have a go at it. Let's have a go at this. We'll both have a go.
But yeah, I mean,
Cascades?
Cascais?
Cascades?
Cascais. It must be, wasn't it?
I did start giggling when I read the name of the winner of the female race, and I'm like, good luck with that one.
Yeah. Well, that's your turn, isn't it, on the women's race, isn't it, in a minute?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Good work, Magnus Ditlev. It's 3 weeks of racing and 370.3 races for Magnus, with 2 first places and a podium in the 3rd place in the middle. You know, it's good to see someone going at it like that week in, week out and getting strong results like this. It's also, for me, very impressive to see Magnus leaning on his run to hold off some of the best runners in the sport, because not only did he absolutely annihilate the field on the bike by coming out 122 down, passing them, and then putting a minute into them into T2, but he held that advantage and didn't fade on the run. So I think we are starting to see a Magnus Ditlev that is, a rounded challenge to some of these other athletes out on the field.
This is his best performance as far as I'm concerned. I think the fact that he backed his run, and I think at one point they said that Brownlee and Roll that were like actually quite close to him, and he has held on for the entire run, led the entire run. Like, it is such a great performance by Magnus. That is a world-class field that he's beaten there. That's not some race with a few, that Johnny Brownlee, Olympic gold, the Olympic completionist, Casper Stornes, the winner of Nice, Aaron Royal. Like, there's so many red hot names in that field, and Magnus. Yeah, I'm very, very, very impressed by that result. So
yeah. And something that was said on commentary that struck with me was when you look at Magnus running, he's very tall, and so you can look at him run and you can sometimes be fooled into thinking that he's not running quickly, because, when you're that tall, you do run in a different sort of manner to someone like me, let's say, who's quite a short man.
Yeah, Frodeno's representative.
The world's most average man. Smaller people have a bigger turnover and less of a sort of lumbering type. But he was pushing the pace, man, and he did really well, and he held on, and hopefully we'll see much more from Magnus as the year continues, because he's going to be racing later in the year, isn't he?
Let's do the women's race, and I guess this is on me, is it? Even though I've done all the heavy lifting this episode, I'm disappointed, but I'll try. We had a relative rarity through the opening 1.9 kilometer swim with not Lucy Hall lead-in. That's pretty standard, but this time she had some company courtesy of Lottie Miller from Norway. Now, that's something that I didn't realize. The fact that Lottie Miller was racing this, I think, is worth mentioning. Minute 24 back was Luisa Baptista from Portugal. Hall's racing approach, which has served her well, was straight into action on the bike, and she was soon alone at the head of the field. And she was actually riding quicker than anyone over the opening third of the race. That continued until the dismount line came into sight, by which time Kim Morrison had moved through the field and closed the deficit slightly to 2.5 minutes. Morrison was not alone. She had Marjolaine Pierre. I'm sure that's wrong. For a company. Marjolaine Pierre.
Marjolaine Pierre. Yeah.
Okay. For company, who to date had done most of her professional racing on the domestic circuit in France. In her fourth straight week of racing, Hall started another half marathon. But could she continue to make the podium? Spoiler alert. Actually, I don't know. I'll save that. By the halfway point of the run, the French athlete Pierre had joined the London 2012 Olympian at the front, but the real mover was Darren. From starting the run almost 5.5 minutes back in sixth position, she was already up to third and only a minute and a half down on the leading pair. Having made up 5 minutes relative to Hall and 2 to Pierre, Baptista in fourth place wasn't far from matching Darren's pace either. 5 kilometers later, and while Hall continued to fall back through the field, Pierre was now gaining time at the front over the Swiss athlete, and that strength continued to the finish to claim a debut 70.3 victory with a well-paced 1:18:50 half marathon. Relative comfortable margin. So in the women's race, in first place was Marjolaine Pierre in 4:17:04, Luisa Baptista 4:19:47 in third place, Julie Darren 4:20:34 with Lottie Miller in fourth place 4:25:26, Lucy Hall 4:27:28. Now I think I heard, now don't quote, I don't have the split here, but I heard that Lucy Hall ran like a 1:31 or something. Like her run split was way off the pace. I could, again, I'm probably wrong. I actually shouldn't have
She's
said
had
that.
a busy year, and this will be the first race of the year that she hasn't finished on the podium.
Yeah.
So she's had a strong and busy year. So maybe all her chickens came home to roost in that one race and was just like, game over.
Lottie Miller sneaking under the radar though.
Yeah. No, good to see it. And it's always interesting to see, new contenders rise. And Marjolaine Pierre is obviously one to watch for the future. Talking about women's races, I need to. I made a mistake last week, didn't I? I said it was. Oh Christ, what was her name? Oh, now I'm fucking it even more.
Which race are we talking about? Let's unpack it.
Hang on, bear with me a second.
Okay. What could it possibly be? Which race are we referring to? Are we referring to?
I had so many. Ruth Astle. I said that she. It was her first pro race as a pro that she'd won, and it wasn't by a long way. She'd done many pro races, and so I need to put a correction out. Basically, I'd.
Did you get it online? Did people correct?
I know. Oh, so many, mate. I got I got mixed up with someone else, basically. So in the moment, I just got mixed up with someone else, and shit happens.
Sorry, Ruth. What can you do? Let's talk about another race that happened over the weekend, the LA Triathlon, actually the Herbalife 24 Triathlon Los Angeles. I'm not going to call it that ever. I'm sorry. Again, John Levison tried 24/7 for the summary. From an ocean swim at Venice Beach to cycling through the heart of Los Angeles and then finished the run on the LA Live Xbox Plaza. That was Sunday's triathlon, bringing the race back to Tinseltown. Men's race. South African Jamie Riddle was one of the few athletes to head Vincent Louis in the swim this year, but his 17-second advantage was never going to worry the two-time world triathlon champion, even if the non-drafting format is not a regular feature of his typical race season. The 40-kilometer bike ride mixed things up, leaving a trio of Louis, Ben Knut, and Denmark's Mickey Tagholt arriving at T2 in close order, while Jason West, USA, did a run a few seconds quicker to claim fifth place. Like Pallant-Browne, Lewis was always going to be the strong favourite from that point. He duly crossed the line over a minute clear of four-time escape from Alcatraz winner Knut, with Tagholt completing the podium. So that's the men's race. Vincent Louis doing some non-drafting race. Good to see.
Yeah, too right. And after you gave me a bit of a bollocking last week for not having gone and watched his the Instagram video of him in the wind tunnel doing the aero testing, I went and watched that. I can confirm I have now seen that.
Excellent.
Fucking hell, he's looking mean, isn't he, on that bike? A lot better than he did in Daytona that time.
Yeah. Well, look, instead of us talking about the women's race, why don't we drop in an interview with the winner of the LA Triathlon, Emma Pallant-Browne, and we'll be back afterwards. Okay, so this week we are lucky to be joined by a British professional athlete who is a European under-23 cross-country champion, a world-class middle distance runner with world titles in aquathon and duathlon, runner-up at the 70.3 World Championships, and a stack of 70.3 wins. I'm doing so well today. She recently won the LA Triathlon over the weekend. We are talking to Emma Pallant-Browne. Emma, how are you going?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. Going pretty well.
I don't normally do the introductions. I've got James Bale for that, so I felt the pressure a little bit. And again, we always say that how long a person's introduction is how impressive a guest they are. And yours was quite lengthy, so congratulations. Before we get to this, I want to tell a story about you. And one of my first ever interactions I had with you was years ago. I think it was at either the Laguna Phuket Triathlon in 2015, 2016, somewhere like that. And you see a lot of athletes who like to talk about like they're going to push themselves to the limit or they're going to push themselves to the. Lionel said, I'm either going to win or I'm going to go home in a stretcher. I think I saw you at the end of one of those races and you were like done, absolutely pushed to the absolute limit. I don't know, do you even remember this finish? I think it was 2016 or 2015. It was one of those years. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I was going to say it's happened a good few times in Phuket. I think it's happened like 3 times where I felt destroyed, gone to the hotel, like slept for 4 hours straight, and then gone out for the after party and destroyed again. So yeah, it's actually one of my favorite places to be. I think it's like a proper end of season, just a holiday race that yeah, I've had some brutal moments there, but also some of the best times.
I still remember a race we started. I think it was the challenge, and it was 6 a.m. start. And they used to have the temperature above the finish line. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, it was 40 degrees Celsius. I remember going, "What am I doing? Like this is a bad idea."
Humidity yeah, but then you race. So one of them, I did a race, and then I think a week later or 2 weeks later, I went to Bahrain to race, and I didn't even notice the temperature. I was like, wow, it's a pretty good place to train.
My worst one was I did the Phuket race, and then like literally a week and a half later, I went to New Zealand and I raced in Taupo, and that lake is cold. So it was a real shock to my system because it was like 2 extremes. But we're not here to talk about my race, and nobody cares about my race. And they're here to talk about Emma Pallant-Browne. Emma, you won over the weekend. How have you pulled up since LA Triathlon?
Yeah, so LA Triathlon. Yeah, I think it was just it was a really weird race because I'd crashed 2 weeks before. I had a bike crash in a race, and yeah, I felt really unprepared. I'd have days off, and yeah, I think a couple of people thought I shouldn't come out to race, and I was like, no, everything's booked up. This is my last 2. I can do this. But then I think I felt a little bit more pressure because yeah, I kind of felt like I had to pull it out of the bag, and I think it's also that thing of like before the Worlds, I felt super prepared and I was really pumped up for the race. And this one, I kind of felt nervous because I didn't feel prepared. And I think it just goes to show you can't really predict on the start line, like, yeah, how are you going to do? Like, you got to do the best preparation that you can do. And then on the day, like, who knows what can happen.
So you said I had a crash. What happened?
So I was doing a bike race. So my husband, his family always do it. It's called the Cape Cycle Tour. And it's normally in, I want to say it's earlier in the year, like March kind of time, but it had been postponed. And yeah, I ended up, I got away in a breakaway. There were 6 of us and ended up in a sprint finish and just touched handlebars with another girl and went down.
How's the bike?
Yeah, that was my first. I checked my collarbone and then I checked the bike, but it's good, solid S-Works.
Fantastic. We love to hear it. So tell us about the actual race itself in LA. You obviously won. How did you think it went? And I also have to ask, because a lot of our members who were there said that the course was a little bit rough on the bike in particular. How'd you find it?
Yeah, it definitely was. So the swim actually I thought was a little bit rough. It took me a couple of attempts to get out of the waves, and yeah, then it was okay chop. It was just a little bit chilly, and my feet actually didn't warm up on the bike. It was quite a cold day, I think, just in general, even when you came out of the water. And so I think I came down maybe in a group of like, there were 2 girls ahead and in a group of like 7, I think. Or I was 7th and there was 5 of us. A couple of minutes down and I biked through, but then Heather Jackson came flying past me. And yeah, like you said, the road was loads and loads of bumps. And Heather, I don't know how she managed to stay in her bars. I said it must be a gravel experience, but yeah, she kept in her bars, and I was like, no ways. Came up in my hoods and just tried to do a little bit of technique work, and came into transition just behind her. But then my feet were really cold, so I couldn't get on my shoes. And I think she gapped me by like 45 seconds in transition, just because I think as well, then you panic, and I was trying to like shove them on, and then I calmed down, like warmed up my foot, put them in, and yeah, then on the run I felt pretty good, pretty in control. And but it's a hilly run, hey, like I was staying at the hotel, and I thought everywhere is flat, but they found the one hill, and you went up it, you went down it, turned back around, up and down, and then did 2 laps of that.
It's like they got Super League involved to try to plan the most brutal course they could find for the athletes. Doesn't surprise me. You've had a pretty incredible year with racing. You've raced a lot this year. You've had some amazing results, including escape from Alcatraz. Obviously, you were one of the fastest finishers at the Collins Cup, and you also managed to take the scalp of the new up-and-comer Taylor Knibb in Boulder. What has your year been like? What are some of the highlights for you? What are some of your favorite moments so far this year?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of a trial kind of year, because I started with a new coach at the very beginning of the year, and everything changed. Like, started with a new bike sponsor with Specialized, and to begin with, I was just getting used to things. I had to put a lot of trust because there was so many big changes. And when I kind of raced a little bit early in the season, and I could see the results like were paying off, I think I gained kind of confidence and momentum throughout the year. I think maybe I peaked a little bit at Boulder, because just doing a lot of travel from South Africa, America isn't the easiest. And then I had a really good settled down time in one place before Boulder, and I did my prep there, and I felt really good. And then got a little bit sick after. And I think you're always treading that red line of then traveling, like who wasn't going to do the Collins Cup, definitely went and did that. Building into the Worlds, I think it was a busy season, but I just had so much fun with the races. And like you say, doing new ones as well. Like, I think every race I've done this year, I hadn't done before this year. So obviously got to do St. George twice, but the European races, I kind of would do a couple that I've already done each year, but these were all brand new courses, and also racing kind of different girls, because going from Europe to America was a little bit different.
You actually basically vocalized one of the questions I was going to ask you next, and that is about the fact that this year does seem to be such a big year of changes for you. You talked about the fact you've changed coaches, new bike sponsor. There's been a whole suite of changes for you. What sort of impact have those changes had on you, both as a person and as an athlete?
Yeah, I think it's been from my personal life, kind of, I feel a lot more settled now. I got married in January. Jared is like my total yin to my yang, like his personality and mine couldn't be more different. And I think, we really balanced each other out. I think we both love to have fun, and when he can travel with me, we just love what we do. And we kind of, I think we always realize how lucky we are, and to be able to share it with someone as well, I think is quite special. But Specialized, they've really been focused on my aero kind of position, which I think is something that I've lacked in previously. And the same with Tim. When he came on as my coach, that was one of his first areas. And kind of that patient side of things, because at the beginning of the year, you have to take that step back of pushing less watts to be able to hold the position. It's kind of that reverse psychology of you want to see the improvement straight away, and to be like, oh no, I'm going to step back and then get bigger improvements was a bit of like an adjustment. And that was quite stressful to begin with.
How do you manage something like that? I can understand as an athlete, we're so paranoid about losing our form or our performance. Is that something that was Tim quite upfront with you about this? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think just knowing, like, I have such big respect for Tim, and I've seen what he did, and like putting full trust in him. And he was like, if you want me to coach you, like, you got to buy into this. Like, it's not just take a bit of this and take a bit of that. And I always say, because as well, it's from afar. So he's so good with his plans. Like, it's very detailed, but Jared's kind of his eyes on the ground, and Jared used to be coached by him, so they've got a good relationship, and I know that he'll rat me out if I'm pushing extra watts but not in the position. And yeah, it's been I think a respect thing. I want to make Tim proud, and I know that he's investing a lot by putting his time and stuff into me, and yeah, I want to kind of give that back.
I did know, I was in preparing for this, I watched some of your Collins Cup interview with Bob Babbitt, and I did notice you've got that slight South African twang to your accent starting to creep in since last time I spoke to you. You've obviously relocated to South Africa. Your husband's South African. What are some of the things you like about South Africa? And tell us about the orphanage you've set up down there.
Yeah, wow. I love the outdoor life. I think, yeah, the weather is fantastic. We live in Johannesburg, so I've also got the altitude benefit there. And just, I think, having a base, because before, when I was living in London, I kind of was flying in and out, doing a training camp here, racing here. And I never really felt settled. And I think maybe COVID helped with that a little bit as well. But yeah, we've got 2 dogs now. We've got a house. And
very grown up.
Yeah, not very grown up. And I think as well, just like we have a team, and we have just when you're in a place for a longer period of time, you make maybe closer friendships. Not to say that my relationships, like with my friends back at home and stuff, aren't close, but you just, I don't know, that balance of having stuff outside of triathlon as well, which is easier to do there. But yeah, the orphanage has always been something that I've kind of looked at, like it's a big goal of mine eventually to be able to have a development running squad where, yeah, taking the kids that are underprivileged and be able to say, this is like a way out. And I saw it firsthand when we used to train in Kenya with GB Athletics, and just how running changed a whole town. And from such a humble kind of country lifestyle in Iten, they were producing world record holders. And yeah, just from one guy's vision out of school, being a missionary, and he became a run coach, and yeah, just took it from there. And I think if you plant that seed and you have one person that can come out of there, that then feeds the next generation, and that generation become coaches, and so on. And I think there's so much potential in South Africa, and yeah, if I can do anything to help make that happen. And it's kind of, the first thing was going into this orphanage, and we did a little bit of that before COVID, and yeah, got some kids that we're helping from there. So watch this space.
I love it. Your previous coach, Michelle Dillon, was obviously such a big part of your journey into triathlon and through the early parts of your triathlon career. And you've said you've changed to Tim Don now. I've personally just been through the process of changing my coach of 8 years as well. And I guess what was that process for you? Like, was it a tough decision? What was that journey from one coach to another like? And yeah, like, do you think for athletes change is good, I suppose?
Yeah, and I think it's good, but I think it's very hard. Like for me especially, it was really emotional. I kind of had the same thing when I grew up, and I always had the same run coach, and I stuck with him for ages. And when I decided to do triathlon and went to Michelle, I didn't want to have that close relationship because it had been so hard leaving my run coach. And yeah, but it just happened. Like, she was like a mum to me, and we really like had great times. And it was that thing of, because we were so close, and she'd come to my sessions, and I moved to be like pretty much right next to them, so I could train with them. And then it was really hard when I relocated to South Africa, because so much of that coaching was hands-on. You can't just flick a switch and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to do the same thing in a different place. And especially in South Africa, where it's not safe to be riding on your own. And if I was trying to follow my rigid plan, yeah, it was one of those circumstance things, but it was still really hard. And like I still feel guilty, and I still, yeah, massively respect Michelle, and I'm really grateful for those times. But I had that COVID period where I didn't have a coach, and it definitely didn't work. It was fun Zwift racing, and yeah, I just I overtrained massively and didn't do any aero work. And yeah, by Daytona, when I got my ass kicked, thinking I was going in the best shape of my life, which is probably the best running shape of my life, but not triathlon, I realized that I actually needed a triathlon coach. So yeah, asked him, and that's where it started.
And I've been without a coach now for maybe I'm about to start with my new coach, Reese, on Monday, but it's been like 2.5 weeks sort of in between. And I was like, I'll be fine. And no, I think I ran my biggest ever run week. And I'm like, yeah, this is probably too much. I'm just like, yeah, I think I need somebody to actually maybe tell me what to do. So yeah, it's good to know. Good to know. We've hinted on it. Let's go back now. We've spoken a little about what's been happening this year, but let's go back to your journey to triathlon, because for people who are maybe unaware, you were an incredible runner. I think I heard you had a 15K of like 13:35, 5K of like 13:35 or something ridiculously fast like that. So tell us how you went from being an insanely good runner to an insanely good triathlete.
Yeah, I think even probably asked me that 2 years ago, I still thought of myself as a runner doing triathlon. And I grew up doing all sports, and then quickly, I think I was probably about 11 or something when my run coach was like, hey, you could be a decent runner, but you need to focus on running. And again, I think that kind of suits my personality. I like to do one thing like full tilt and full gas. Which is quite ironic now. Yeah, it was kind of that, sure, from that age, I think I got success like quite early and made all the junior teams. And yeah, it was just really one of those people that before uni got a lot of success as a junior that you think will burn out to senior. And yeah, I did. I got a massive knee injury, ended up on crutches, and yeah, just kept on. Probably did about 2 years where I still got results, but I still had this like pain in my knee, and I was running through, and I was studying physiotherapy, so I was kind of like, well, like we say, coaching yourself. I was telling myself that I'm fine. Yeah, just really blew up my knee to the point of like I had to do different training to just to keep fit. So the swimming and biking came in, and Kelly Holmes was my run mentor, and she had like a charity thing for London Triathlon. So she was like, yeah, do London Triathlon, just swim and bike, and then you can do the run for fun. So that's what I did. I trained for that, and yeah, reached out to Michelle when I was training because I wanted to do it properly, and it kind of all went from there.
You started, I believe, doing some short course racing before you made the transition up to long course. One of the things we hear a lot of people suggest about short course or draft legal racing is that it's easy. It's not real triathlon racing because they just sit on the bike and do nothing. Is that your experience?
I wouldn't say it's easy. I definitely had some, my biggest ass kickings of my life in short distance triathlon. But I think it was easy to find my bike because I'd come out the water like way back. Yeah, bike up to a pack, and then I think it's just that funny. And even like racing this road race 2 weeks ago, it's that real funny mentality of, I don't know, that tactical cat and mouse of everyone wants to save their energy, and you're kind of in a group together, but you're not really working together. And I think that was my frustration because I'd see the front packs that were so motivated and working together and wanting to push hard. And I think it's been lost a little bit in the chase packs of getting as organized. And even I think I saw that in the Olympics, like I saw Nicola on the front for so much of that. I think, it takes a big group of people to kind of change that race mentality back to swinging the other way.
Fair enough. The team thing you just touched on, is that something you've liked? We'll come back to the Collins Cup, but just when you were talking about teams, was that an element of the Collins Cup? Is that an element of triathlon? I know you've been on the BMC team in the past, but something like the Collins Cup with that team element, did you like that part? Did you like that change and that new dimension to the race in there?
Yeah, I actually really did, because I think kind of the girls that you race on the circuit all the time, and you kind of you think you know each other until you're sitting in a warm-up pen an hour before the race and you're all like warming up together, and then you really get to know each other. And I think it was really cool. I think, the Europe team, I feel like we bonded a bit, and just super cool girls who, yeah, can be your rivals, but also can be your friends. And I think it's going to do a lot for the sport. I think it really, yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Speaking specifically of the women, I've personally found this year, I think at a lot of events, the women's fields to me, or the women's races, have been a lot more exciting in anticipation, and then in execution, I find the women's races are often a lot more exciting for me. I mean, I think if you look at the 70.3 Worlds field this year, I think the women's field was absolutely stacked, where I found the men's was maybe a bit, maybe light's not the right word, but not as deep as maybe, well, the women's field. What is it like for you to be amongst this group of incredible women who are making women's racing just so exciting at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's even exciting to be a part of, because I think, like, you're all that close and really anything can happen on the day. Because yeah, I think a lot of the girls as well, it's very much an individual race. Like, there aren't many bits of, you can say, oh, this group is going to work, these girls are going to get away, these girls are going to do this. Like, I think it all just so depends on the day, because people are always trying to close that gap and work on one kind of bit of their weakness, and maybe can improve on that, and then find they like come back a little bit in another. And getting that balance and that dynamic, I think all the races have been so different, and they've been like super close rivalries, which, yeah, I think even being a part of, I think it's really good fun.
2021 has been pretty big for the sport. We've got two brand new Olympic champions. We had the mixed team relay for the first time. We don't need to talk about Great Britain. We know they're good. Tri battle with Jan and Lionel. We had the Collins Cup. Next year, we've got sub-7, sub-8, and we've also got St. George World Championships instead of Kona. So there's a lot of changes, a lot of new stuff happening in triathlon at the moment. What do you think about the current state of the sport?
I think it is so exciting. I'm actually in a couple of weeks about to announce another race, a brand new race that we're going to do, which is another element of triathlon, a kind of light-hearted fun thing, which, yeah, stay tuned for that, because it's coming very, very soon.
Ooh, an exclusive. There we go. Look out.
Yeah. But that is just something that I think's popped out of having all these new and fun things like Super League, and yeah, they're gonna break that 9-hour record, and all these different kind of ways of making triathlon so watchable and so interesting. And I think they then spread on to people watching that and think, okay, I've got this idea, and let's go to the people with this. And I think more and more races are popping up, and I think it can only be a good thing for the sport. And I think more and more of it's going to keep happening now. I think it's that snowball effect.
Is there excitement amongst the pros? Like, because it's funny whenever these new things, again, I'm probably paying more attention to a loud minority rather than the masses, but there's always this element of this isn't what triathlon is, or this is like, whereas I love it. Like, I think anything we can do different to make the sport easier to consume and better and more appealing is great. But like, amongst the pros, is it the same? Is it like, no, I want to swim, I want to bike by myself when I run, or is there excitement about the changing things up a bit?
Yeah, I think, well, from personally, I think I get excited about all triathlon things, but yeah, I think there is that buzz, and I think, again, it leads to that thing of it's less predictable. I think the more you switch up the races, like Flip, I would love us to have a race where we run first, we then bike, and then swim.
I can talk to Chris about getting you in a Super League if you like.
I've been there, I've tried that. They still swam first. Yeah, I think it's that thing of just, yeah, making it unpredictable and making it interesting, and it's just going to attract more and more people to the sport, because I actually think it is like one of the most, whenever you talk to people who have no idea about triathlon, like, they have so many questions and they are interested in, they do love it, and I think that speaks volumes for the sport itself.
If you were given the keys to triathlon tomorrow, say I had the power to go, Emma, you're now in charge of triathlon, you can do with it what you like. What do you think are some, what are some of those changes you think what are some of the things you think you'd maybe not replace, but what are some things you'd like to try?
I'd definitely like us to be allowed to swim with paddles on. I think that would be super fair. Maybe have to run in
flippers as well.
But yeah, I think the order would be fun as well. Like, I don't even know if it would suit the stronger swimmers or suit the stronger runners, but yeah, I think it would be fun to see a switch up in that order of racing.
One of the things I'd love to see, and I got the idea from the Collins Cup idea, this team idea, that one of the things we always hear people, or one of the biggest issues in races around drafting. So I'd love to see teamed draft legal Ironman races where you actually have teams of 5. So maybe it's, I think there'd be a real strategy about, how you swim together and then on the bike in packs. And I'd really like to see that. I think it'd be, again, I get in trouble for saying that because people are like, that's not Ironman. I'm aware it's something else. You touched on it before, but something I think we're seeing more and more this year is that idea of rivalries that you sort of touched on. I mean, we had, or even just face-offs, Jan versus Lionel in the tri battle, the hype around Jan versus Gustav. It's not just Jan racing people, I promise, because we also had Holly versus Ellie at the Collins Cup. As an athlete, do these sort of comparisons and opportunities to race against somebody, does that motivate you? Do you not like it, or does it not bother you at all?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's like, it's one of those things as well, you're kind of measuring, because courses are so different and it's great to have records and these super fast times and stuff, but like conditions are always playing a factor. And I think those real like head-to-head rivalries, like for me, someone I've raced so much this year is Jeannie Seymour. And I think we are literally tied at the moment. She's got me in the the big ones in St. George. Yeah, it's those, you can gauge a race of who, if you're racing these girls frequently, I think you really know how you're performing and how you're doing. And also it gives you that great feedback of what you need to work on, like for the next one. And the more you race each other, the more you have an idea of how you can be closer to them, and they're going to have an idea of how, they can beat you. So you're just going to keep on pushing each other. So I think it's great for the sport.
So who would you like us to start lining you up against? Who do you want the big hype? Who do you want the big face-off? Emma Pallant-Browne. Who is the person that you want to have the big so one-on-one race, whatever it is? Who's the person you'd like to really, really just go out and smash?
Jared, I think, because he beat me in the last. We did a race together straight out of COVID, but it was drafting, and he had his friends, and it was a total setup. So I want us to do non-drafting, just pure head-to-head. Yeah.
Domination within the family. There you go.
He can't have the bragging rights. It's wrong.
I want to talk about 70.3 odds because I think, obviously, as I touched on, I think the women's race was incredible. How do you think the day went? Tell us a little bit about your 70.3 odds race. Yeah,
I think it's still one that I'm a little bit confused about, because I think it's the worst I felt all year. And I did think that my preparation had gone well. I'd kind of had the easy week. I'd had the smashed a week of training. I'd had the taper week, and I was quite calm, and I felt good. And I didn't have the best swim, but I don't think that kind of fazed me too much, because I'm always expecting to come out of the water having to chase. But then on the bike, I felt really good. I felt really in control, and I thought, you know what, this can be my day. And I didn't expect to feel like the bike didn't feel like it was hard. And then I got off onto the run, and I don't know what happened. I just left my legs in T2, and maybe I was kind of too in the zone, didn't eat and drink enough, or was, I don't know, too nervous beforehand and hadn't had good food lead up. I can't explain it. I think that's the frustrating thing for me, because if it's something I knew, if I could pinpoint exactly what it was, I could be like, okay, I'll do this differently next time. And maybe it just wasn't my day. And the other girls were super strong. And I just, was really, I think, just disappointed in my run. I felt like I had a lot more to offer on the run. Hey, next time.
That's the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot there, because I think at that race in particular, we saw one of the outstanding performances of the year from Lucy Charles-Barclay off the front. I think I still can't comprehend how it was incredible, such a performance. Do you think if you had your best day, you could have beat her?
Do you know what? I think Lucy that day, the win was definitely hers. And I actually said leading in, because I saw her Euro champs performance, and I thought it went kind of a little bit, I don't know if it was downplayed, or when I saw it, I thought Lucy was already there, and she just stepped up another level. She's on fire, she's on form. I don't think she got much hype from it. And then at the Collins Cup, I know she wasn't well, and to still do the performance that she did, I was sure. And so Lucy, with the fire in her belly, having not been well, to then come into the Worlds, I was kind of expecting something really special. And again, I think she's got more input from somewhere else this year, has made a lot of changes. And yeah, that was her day. And flip, she's come second so much. She deserved it. And I think, yeah, that was as close to perfect days. She executed that like spot on.
Honestly, what's going on with Great Britain triathlon, especially the women? Like you look at it, and I mean the Olympics, for example, you have so many athletes who, like Sophie Caldwell, for example, not picked for the Olympics because there's all these people above her. And then you look at long course, and you've got yourself, you've got Kat Matthews, you've got Lucy Charles, Barclay. Like it is, I hate it. I hate that you Brits are so strong at the moment. It is absolutely heartbreaking as an Australian going, can we just win something, please? Like we can't even, it's in all seriousness, though, I touched on it, but it is such an incredible time for female triathlon. And especially, I think, if you look at what the Great Britain, I don't know what's in the water over there, but it's a real, like, just dynasty is not the right word, but there is just this momentum at the moment with British triathlon. Not just, I mean, you've got the Brownlees and plenty of guys, Alex here, for example, but there's just something going on over there at the moment, and it makes me very jealous.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things of like, we're seeing it now, but we're all people that were racing each other. Like this has come from like a good few years of having to race each other. And yeah, it's come from, I think as well, from different sports. Like I used to be in Great Britain cross country teams with Non, and we grew up run racing like super close together. And again, you push each other on, and then you see what each other are doing. And Beth Potter was part of that. And you're seeing all these girls now, like, I think you do feed off each other.
Yeah, like I said, I just wish Australia could start to replicate that a little bit. It'd be fantastic. The PTO, let's talk about the PTO a little bit, because they've now been around for a little while. And actually, the last time we had your coach on the podcast, or the only time we had Tim on the podcast, he shocked me a little bit, because he was almost a bit, he was skeptical, I think is right. He was skeptical about the PTO's plans, whether this is legitimate, what's their business model, how they're going to do it. And I think that was probably the feeling a lot of people had when they first came along. Hey, we're just going to give you money. Like, we're here to support, and be like, yeah, what's the angle? We're now well over a year later. What do you think that they've cemented themselves as a legitimate, we're here to stay? And what impact have the PTO had on you as a professional athlete and for all professional athletes?
Yeah, I think it's been massive. Well, for me in particular, I think there's so many races that I wouldn't have traveled to if it wasn't for this ranking, this ranking system, this, like, financially, a lot of the time, especially traveling from South Africa, a lot of these races just don't make sense. Kind of, you're not gonna, even if you win, you're like breaking even. And yeah, you've got to really weigh up what you're going to do, and also long-term wise, like, are you being selfish? Your goal, are you really a professional athlete, or are you actually doing your hobby and breaking even each year? And I think PTO, it took a couple of years. I think to begin with, we were all skeptical, and there have been things like before that maybe didn't take off that, you had good hopes for. And I think it's just, they took their time, they did it right. And yeah, I really think they're here to stay, because they've delivered on absolutely everything that they've said. And I think it's great. And again, like you say, it's always one of those things of, it's something new. People are some feedback is constructive. Sometimes people just, don't like a change in something. And I think the good thing about them is they're very open to having the conversation. If you don't just say, like, I think the point system doesn't work. Like, if you have a valid point and you can say, I think you can make it better by doing this, like, they're going to always hear you out. So I think it's definitely something that's massive for our sport, and long may it continue.
The Collins Cup was the crown and the jewel, the thing we'd heard a lot about. As an athlete, how was it? What was that experience like, going to the inaugural Collins Cup and being part of it?
I think just getting there was, like, to begin with, was in January we kind of looked at the season, and we looked at the races, and then we looked at the people going for Team Europe, and I was like, flip, how do I break into those points? Like, you're gonna have to do something special. And that's the fight, and that's the kind of drive that you want to have. Like, you're really going after something. And even so, I think I found out the day after Boulder that it was so close to the race, and literally you had to fight for every point and up to every last minute. So when I was there, I was just going to enjoy it. And I think it was fun. It was super fun. And I loved, like I said, I love that team aspect, and I think it bonded a lot of a lot of us together, which is awesome.
Have you gone and watched the race? Like, have you since doing it actually sat down and watched the race or the highlights?
Wasn't it like 10 hours or something?
Yeah, it was. I stayed up all night for it. Trust me, I know exactly how long it was.
I got sent a lot of clips, and yeah, I did watch all the stuff that I got sent, and like, to me it looked brilliant. I know, again, there was like different places that had very different kind of screenings and things, but yeah, I had a lot of positive comments from it. So
you touched on the rankings and the need to get those rankings right to get to the Collins Cup. Have you found as a professional athlete that those rankings are now impacting your decisions on not only where you race but how you race? One of the things we keep hearing about is the AIT and how it's based on a best course possible time. Is that in your head? And is that because we've assumed that the motivation for that is they want to see athletes push the whole way rather than be leading by 10 minutes ago, I'm just going to walk the last kilometer. Do these sort of thoughts enter your head as a professional?
I think, like, I've stopped trying to guess the system, and I've stopped trying yeah, I've literally just gone into every race, and like, I haven't tactically picked races or anything. I've just been like, okay, I can get to there, like, this is my race plan, these races look good, and just gone in thinking, okay, every second counts. And I kind of feel like I'm always been a little bit like that. Like, I kind of feel like cheating myself if I've crossed the line and I have anything left. So yeah, I don't think it's massively changed how I've raced. Yeah, and I haven't like tactically picked any races.
We're seeing at the moment the Norwegian boys who are making the step up to long distance racing. We see it. We've seen Vince Louis talking about wants to go to 70.3 worlds. Johnny Brownlee made his 70.3 debut over the weekend. Henry Schoeman's looking to go to 70.3. We're at that period where, after an Olympic cycle, a lot of the athletes start to transition up to longer course racing. We saw Katie Zafiris obviously race the Collins Cup. Who are the female or short course athletes that you are excited about seeing step up to the longer course racing?
Sure. Anyone that isn't a decent swimmer. So yeah, that's none of the ITU girls. They can say. I think I think someone like Ashley Gentle would be super strong. I've raced her once. I did a race in Australia, and it was non-drafting. Sure, I can't remember it now, but
Geelong, Husky, Sunny Coast. I can name them all. Cairns.
It was a race in Penrith.
Western Sydney 70.3. Or was it the Nepean Triathlon?
Oh, what did you say?
Nepean Triathlon, Australia's oldest triathlon. That's what it would have been.
I think yeah, and it was the week or 2 weeks before Noosa.
Yep. Nepean Triathlon. Yeah.
We both did both of them, and yeah, flip. She was strong, hey. So yeah, I think she would be exciting to have come up long.
I want to see Flora Duffy. Step up to 70.3. I think I've raced
her at 70.3.
Hey, where was that?
In South Africa, Buffalo City, in the January before last. So that's where she qualified for the World 70.3.
Okay.
We had a good battle.
She's, man, like, I think she's had such a year, like, to do the double, first person to ever win the Olympics and then the WCS. Amazing. Just an incredible athlete. The sub-7, sub-8 next year with Nicola and Lucy Charles doing the sub-8 attempt next year through Phoenix Foundation. Is that the sort of thing that would interest you? If they came to you and said, Emma, we want you to try to break 8 hours, would you be like, yes, sign me up? Or would you be going, this is madness, I don't want to do it?
Yeah, I think anything that is a challenge that pushes yourself to the limit, and I love the black and white goals. Like, that's what hooked me on that Jan and Lionel thing, is it's failure or success, and just having like a clear goal out there, a clear time in mind, and pushing everything to it, I think is super fun.
If you were going to do it, what would be your approach? How would you try to maximize your time savings to get across the line as fast as possible?
I think so. The swim is always flat out for me. Like, it's the only way. I don't think if I hold anything back in the swim, I always just swim super slow. So swim is always balls out. And then on the bike, I think just keeping that aero position super tight and keeping that power super level is something we've been really working on, and drinking, eating heaps and heaps. And I think then you're keeping the heart rate really controlled, and then setting it up for a good run, which is again, I think when you're 10K from the finish line, that's where you can, like, you're not going to blow from there. That's where you can put everything in.
When you hear the Norwegians like Christian saying that he was going to win the Olympics and then go and win Kona as a longer course athlete, do you sit there and laugh, or do you think maybe they could? Like, what are your thoughts when you hear those sort of things? And what was your reaction to both Christian and Flora being given a spot at the Hawaiian Ironman or the World Championships?
Yeah, I love it. I think I think it's just, if they're up for the challenge, then I think why not? If they like a smart professional athletes, if they've earned their rights as the best in the world, and yeah, it's a totally different game. And if they can show that they can do both, I think even more awesome for the sport. And Christian just better wear that tri-suit again.
I did see a YouTube clip and he had a white one. It's like, it's perfect for Instagram. I was like, I don't know if that's the case, Christian. I'm not sure if people appreciate it like you think they did. What's next for you? What have you got coming up? What's the next year, 18 months, 6 months? What's looking like for Emma Pallant-Browne?
So I've got Oceanside this weekend, which is, then I don't know, this might even be one race too many. I feel like LA was rolling the dice, and I've pulled up a bit sore from that. So yeah, again, I'm all booked. I'm here, I'm waiting out. So I'm just going to give it everything and then call it a season, and go back to South Africa. I haven't spent much time at home. So yeah, we're going to have a couple of weeks just chilled, and then really start that kind of building up. And I think that's where I didn't give Tim didn't have as much time last year, because we started in January. He didn't have that kind of off-season build up. So focusing November, December on getting strong pre-year training, and then next year, 70.3 Worlds will be the big goal. Any PTO races, the big goal. I'd love to do World Triathlon again. I'd love to do loads of races. So I'm going to throw them all in there and just see which ones Tim takes out. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun year.
Well, I always like seeing your name on a start list. It always makes me pay more attention to the event. Emma, if people want to find out more, follow you along, where can they find you?
I'm probably most active on Instagram. Yeah, I'm not the greatest at social media, but I do try and put up Instagram stuff. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one.
I'll make sure to include it in the show notes, and if you're on YouTube, it'll be below. Emma Pallant-Browne, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. I always like chatting with you, and good luck for this weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're back. So to round out the podium from that race, in first place, Emma Pallant-Browne, 2:02.45. Second place, Amy Sloan, 2:04.07. And in third place, Heather Jackson, 2:04.21. Great racing. Again, Emma Pallant-Browne, what a season. And the season isn't over for Emma. She is back this weekend to race Oceanside 70.3. We've got a bit of a preview again from John Levison at Tri 24/7. The race is typically held in April. The race gets a different time slot this year because of the strange times, but that doesn't stop another top quality group of athletes set to race. Let's see who we've got. In the pro women's field, currently ranked 6th and 7th respectively in the PTO World Rankings, we have Emma Pallant-Browne and Jeannie Metzler. They continue a rivalry which has seen them race head-to-head several times already in 2021. Emma took the honours at Ironman 70.3 Boulder, winning the race where Jeannie was a close third to Taylor Knibb, and at 70.3 Des Moines. They were 2nd and 4th respectively behind Holly Lawrence. However, Metzler has now also beaten Pallant-Browne twice, both on the 70.3 course in St. George, Utah in May. It was 2nd, Jeannie, and 3rd, Emma, behind Danielle Reif. And at the 70.3 World Championships, where Jeannie Metzler obviously got the 2nd place behind Lucy Charles-Barclay. Also, Oceanside should see the return of racing to Paula Finlay, who we have seen has been injured ever since she came 4th at Ironman St. George in May. The men's race, we got Ben Knut, the obvious favourite, I think, on the list. He was 2nd of Vince Louis the past weekend at the LA Triathlon and took a strong 6th place in St. George World Championships. He was also the Oceanside champion in April 2019. The other people who are going to be racing are Mickey Taggold, who finished above him at 70.3 World Championships. And there's also Eric Lagerstrom from USA and Sam Appleton from Australia. Let's go, Sam. Can't wait to see it. Oceanside, mate. It's one of the iconic 70.3 races in the world.
Yeah. I mean, be strong fields on both sides, and it'll be exciting. I'm really keen to see if Emma Pallant can follow through on her victory at the LA Tri and move on to this. And good to see Ben Knut out there as well, because he's a strong athlete. And I think Ben's had a lot of success across the board, but I think we're yet to see the very best of him.
I like the thought that we're starting to see this little bit of a rivalry between Jeannie Metzler and Emma Pallant-Browne. I spoke to Emma about it in our interview, but I think we're starting to see a few more of these. Like, one of the things, because of like the tri battle and the Gustav versus Jan and these sort of head-to-head elements, is we're starting to look or crave these rivalries a bit. We know Ellie Salthouse and Holly, for example. And it sounds like the Emma Pallant-Browne, Jeannie Metzler one is one that I'm quite excited about. So that's an element to this race that I'm really looking forward to seeing this weekend, to seeing just how those two go against each other. But plenty of red hot names in that race. So check it out. Speaking of checking out, Jimbo, what's next?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. When am I going to be able to stop doing that, Mr. Ford? I know it's coming. Yeah, it's on Jane, isn't it? It's on Jane. Jane, get on. Fuck on with it. Recent press release from the PTO. The Collins Cup delivers 5 times audience growth on PTO 2020 Championship as inaugural event captures imagination of sports fans globally. The PTO has worked alongside YouGov Sport, global sports sponsorship and entertainment research company, to gather audience data and fan insight of the inaugural Collins Cup. In deals brokered internally by PTO Media and IMG, a cumulative event audience of close to 7 million across live and highlights tuned in to watch the Collins Cup, with close to 1,000 hours of broadcast coverage aired live and on demand in over 165 countries, 22 languages, covering 400 million households. So the Collins Cup app was downloaded 35,000 times, and the Collins Cup website and live second screen data tool had over 200,000 users on event day as fans looked to consume live and on-demand content across the PTO's channels. So yeah, I'm not going to go through every broadcaster that had it and every country that had it on, but I mean the numbers. We know that numbers can be there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, but it's good to see that they have numbers behind the broadcast and people were tuning in for it. We've gone through and reviewed our thoughts towards what can be done better, but for a first step, I think they're moving very much in the right direction, and it was a very well-produced triathlon with its issues. But what do you think about the numbers that are coming out here?
I think it's great to see so many people tune in. I definitely think the job they did promoting this race deserved interest. The way they presented this, though, let's rewind the clock a little bit. Almost 12 months ago, James Bevel, we were starting to talk about the PTO Championship in Daytona, and one of the things we discussed was, is this race a pay-per-view? And that, remember, the only way you could watch the, and again, I get so scared saying declarative statements now because I know someone's going to correct me, but that was the main way to view the race. This race was broadcast on channels around the world. So, of course, to me, the numbers are going to be higher if it's just on a streaming platform that people were like, do I have to pay for this? I remember during the race, people going, I don't want to pay for this race. You don't have to pay. It's free. Of course, the numbers are bigger. I think that's not surprising. What is good about this is to see the engagement, the number of people that were downloading the app, that were engaging with it, that were following it. That's the positive. I'm just like, 5 times more, of course. Like, of course, it's 5 times.
Yeah, I mean that's a headline. That's a headline writer, isn't it? Someone writing a headline has gone, this is the best hook I've got in this article. And yes, it is 5 times better. And there were mistakes made in terms of marketing, how you watch Daytona, for example. It was like, oh, I've got to pay for this. It's like, no, you don't, dude. You just got to download the app or register or whatever. And I think seeing this level of engagement and seeing this level of excitement for triathlon is a good thing. And it's time now for them to identify what weaknesses were seen at the Collins Cup and make sure that the next event they put on, whether it's the next Collins Cup or whether it's the next championship race, has tried to cover as many of those holes as possible, and then just keep going through that process until eventually you've got a seamless broadcast product.
Basically, just get rid of all the male commentary team and just get Belinda Granger and Vicky Holland, and I'll be happy because they were absolutely killer.
And Jan Frodeno's representative, James Bayer.
Of course, I think you'd be mate. I mean, the sexiest voice in triathlon should therefore be the voice of the biggest triathlon event. I mean, the synergy, the marketing opportunities. They say 5 times. It'd be 69 times higher if James Bell, the sexiest voice in triathlon, is commentating for sure.
Charles Dundas, commercial director at YouGov Sports, said, "We are delighted to see the reach of the inaugural Collins Cup. The new format has proved to be a huge hit in the triathlon world, but also demonstrated that the sport is appealing to a general sports enthusiast too. And Tim Godfrey, Chief Marketing Officer at the PTO, also said, "We are thrilled that so many people around the world consume the inaugural Collins Cup. Our athletes have some of the most compelling stories in sport, so we're delighted to give them the platform to showcase their talent." Keep making it better, guys. Just keep going. Don't give up.
Don't stop. Yep. You're starting something great. Speaking of starting something great, James Bell, I love segues. And this segue is, that's actually a really poor segue. I'm going to give up on it. Do you like this podcast? Do you want more of this podcast? Do you want this podcast to become bigger and better and keep going and doing more? Then head to mxendurance.com/podcast where you can sign up for one of our podcast memberships. Prices start as little as $3.40 a month if you sign up for our annual plan, or $49 a year, or $10 a month if you don't want to commit. We can also do a 2-month free trial by using the code available on our website. We have like 16 bonus episodes at this point we've done with Chris. You get a whole suite of benefits, including discounts on partners like Blue 70. I think everybody who signs up gets a 35% discount off Blue 70 to start with, and then a 25% discount that runs all the time. A whole bunch of benefits. So head to mxendurance.com/podcast. It's what keeps the show going. It helps us, tells us that you love it. I see so many people saying that it's their favorite podcast. Thank you for that. If you want to help support it, that's the way to do it. Or you can join or apply for our race team. The link is in the show notes or beneath you on YouTube or beneath us. So that's the thing you can do. But James Bale, if they want to find out other things like the race team, where do they need to go?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Tim and his poor quality content pales in comparison to the sort of shit I put out. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app, and it really helps the show out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow the podcast. If you've got any suggestions, guests, queries, comments, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
Them's fighting words, James Bale. I think we're going to have an Instagram off. What do you reckon?
Content off. Yeah, me and my...
Content off. I mean, you are the content king. You've got a very deep follower base, though. They're very high quality followers compared to my...
Yeah, yours are all bots, aren't they?
No, piss off. Don't even. There's some dodgy things happening on it. And the funny part with people who do it, it's so obvious that they do it, and you're like, you're not fooling anybody. Never done any of that bullshit. But James Bale, I would take that very personally. But no, I think the good thing, what I like is my heckling and me giving you shit is actually up in your game, because that photo you put up last was very good. Very good. So you're getting bonus points. Well done. We have a humongous episode of the podcast next week. I genuinely mean this. If everything goes according to plan, I think it's going to, but get excited. And I'm not going to say what in case it doesn't happen, because I'm a little bit pessimistic after what a certain athlete did to us last week. But if it happens, it's going to be fire. James Bale, until then, thank you very much.
Cheerio.